What's up, guys? My name is Alexis, your host with Praises in the Pod, and I am stoked to have the Carlsons here. This is Jes and Brandon. We are going to be talking a little bit about both of their testimonies and then their testimony together, but we are going to start out with prayer, and then we're going to jump right in. So here we go. Lord, Heavenly Father, thank you for today. Thank you for all your many blessings, dear God. Thank you for this couple coming on and just wanting to tell what you have done in their life, Lord. We pray that you speak to us and through us and let this episode glorify you. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen.
Amen, guys. So let's jump right in. So, Jes, let's start out with you, girl. Tell us a little bit about your childhood and your upbringing a little bit, maybe.
So I grew up here in town, and I didn't really grow up going to church or anything. I went to like vacation Bible school over the summer sometimes, but I definitely did not grow up in like a religious family. I definitely grew up with parents who set a good example for like a strong marriage, but I didn't know God as a kid.
Yeah.
I really didn't.
Brandon, what about you?
So I was raised in town, I guess middle Georgia. My dad was a Marine. I was born in North Carolina. We moved here after a year. They're from here and pretty much raised here in middle Georgia the rest of my life. My mom was a professed Christian. My dad, not quite sure. Still don't really know, to be honest with you. But we grew up going to church, and I was saved, I guess, my first time, I guess if you call it that, at 10. But I don't really count it because
there was no life change or fruit that came from that.
I mean, I was 10.
Yeah.
The pastor was like, you're saved or you go to hell. So I was like, I want to be saved then.
I remember too when I was younger like that, and I was like, I want to be saved, but I had no idea even what that meant. So even though I knew when I was growing up like who Jesus was, I didn't have that relationship. So yeah.
And that's how it was for me. Kind of like her. My parents were married for my entire childhood, 23 or 24 years.
So both of y'all kind of hit on that your parents were together in a strong foundation for both of you because they were together during that, but they just weren't Christ-centered, basically.
Yeah,
is that correct?
My parents have been married for, I think it's since 1987, so I think it's 37 or 38 years. And so I know that they've always been I knew who God was, but I never had a relationship, and it just wasn't really talked about. So definitely not super religious by any means. But I mean, they have been with each other and leaned on each other through everything. So I did learn a lot about life from them at the same time. And my mom stayed at home with us later in elementary school. So when we were little, she was home with us. She was like PTO mom, gymnastics mom, Girl Scout troop leader, everything. And then my dad worked overtime and did manual labor to make ends meet. And so they definitely...
What a blessing.
I had a really good childhood.
That's great.
Despite that, which makes me wonder now when I see my kids like, oh man, if I had known that there was a God who was more powerful than any of this, like I can't imagine,
So me and Jes go way back.
Yes.
Okay. So I started in the hair world when I was like 18, 19. You started when you were like 14.
I know.
You were doing hair in like high school, right?
I was like a shampoo girl at the salon my aunt worked at when I was like 15.
Nice. So you just knew like that was your passion in life. You wanted to follow that. And that's great to know, like, especially at such a young age because you have just flourished since then. But I started working at a salon that Jes worked at, and this was not good years for me. Like, I was off the chain. I was at the bars just every night coming to work hungover. Jes is like, girl, do you not feel good? No. Like, please, no. And she's just so, like, nurturing and, like, motherly, like even when we were younger. So it was like,
she was like that in high school.
Yeah. So, like, what was your life like back then? Because I remember, you didn't have a relationship with God back then either. So
it was so different. It's so crazy. I remember, like, at that point in my life, there was a girl that we worked with that was really close to God, and she would say things sometimes, and I remember I would always feel offended because I was very open-minded, but not in the way that I am now.
Yeah.
And I just thought I had a totally different idea about religion and spirituality, and I had not the right idea, And so I think that I definitely was headed down a bad path, even though I had morals about me. I mean, I definitely didn't have God in my life, and for so long I had really relied heavily on what other people thought of me and just getting by and fitting in, and just so much anxiety that I didn't need to have about just trying to find my place and my purpose and just fill a void that was never going to be filled. So
never.
That's kind of where I was at then.
So Brandon, tell me a little bit about your early 20s.
I guess kind of let me back up. My parents are great people. My mom was fantastic, very similar to hers. My dad worked a lot, and my mom was on and off working. Sometimes she didn't have a job, and she'd homeschool us and stuff like that. And while we went to church every day, I would say we were like the typical American church family. Right? Oh, it's enough to go to church, and that's about it. And we would do like Bible school and stuff like that. And when I was in middle school, I went to a Christian school. And then when we would do Bible classes, stuff like that, homeschooling. But other than that, I mean, I grew up in it, and I've always been a Christian.
Yeah.
But up until probably when I was 15. So through high school is when it started becoming more real for me and something that I desired more.
Did you have something that happened around 15? Like, what was that defining moment for you at 15?
It wasn't really a defining moment for me. It was, I had a girlfriend at the time in high school, and her family were strong Christians.
Yeah.
And so just being around that more and going to church more because I wanted to, not because the family was going, and trying different churches and all that kind of stuff. It was, and getting more into reading the Bible and praying more and stuff like that. It was like, all right, God, when I was 10, that was not real. That was just because, I didn't want to go to hell. I dated her, about 6 years. All through.
Wow.
And I'm going to be respectful, and the people that have known me back then know who I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to use names.
Yeah.
Jess actually did her hair. So
After
she,
high school.
yeah. So
That's a whole, it's so crazy. Invisible string theory. Okay.
Oh, yes, for sure.
So we'll have to get into that.
In high school, I was kind of that good kid. I never did anything.
Yeah.
I never went to parties. I didn't drink till I was 21. I saved myself for the most part. So it was like, I don't really have a story in high school, but wanted to be a cop my entire life. So I started working at a prison at 18 down in Dooley County, and I was a prison guard there just because I couldn't be a cop until 21. And me and this girl got married. That was probably the first, heartbreak or oh crap, that's hurt, because we got married and then 6 months later we got divorced.
Oh, wow.
Found out she was having an affair, and she had loved somebody else for 4 years of the 6 years we were together.
Oh.
And so, so she left, wanted a divorce, and went on. And that was a moment in my life where I was like, okay, my way of getting through that was God, was reading the Bible, was getting closer to him. And
truly seeking him.
Absolutely, absolutely. Because at the same time, I started trying to find ways to calm myself down, ease things for me.
Yeah. Now, is your ex-wife your daughter's mother?
So,
Brandon's lived a lot of lives.
Okay.
Unfortunately,
hang on. Wait.
Didn't even know this.
Hang on. I think I do. You've been married a few times, right? Twice?
Yes.
Twice, and then Jess is 3.
Lucky
Yes.
number 3.
Okay, we're going to cut. We can cut that, but that was, I forgot. Okay, never mind.
No,
okay.
see, keep that in, because that's cool.
Okay.
We just try not to talk about it, because one, that part of my life was like a different life.
Yeah.
And so, unless my kids specifically ask about it, it's not going to come up in conversation.
Yeah.
Like our daughter was like, Jess, truth or dare? I'm like, truth. She's like, have you ever kissed a boy besides dad? And I was like, oh, I have to admit I have. But it's so crazy because, so after high school, when I'm doing hair, I was this person's hairstylist, and you know how it is with your hairstylist, you tell them everything. And I remember just being a support system for her during that time, but also being like, man, I feel for this guy, and I didn't really know him that well, but I felt for him. And then there was a period in time that I don't know whether he reached out to me or Oliver's dad. He would call me and talk to me and Tyler about this situation, and we would try to help him through this. And it was very platonic, just very I admired the way that he spoke about this person. Like, he's going through this heartbreak, and most people would be like, she did this or she did that, but the way he would speak about her was, I forgive her, and I just hope that this is the best choice for her, and I hope that she is okay, you know, because this is going to be a really hard road for her because she was making a lot of different choices. And I just remember thinking like, wow, like that's amazing that he loves her in such an unconditional and selfless way. And it definitely wasn't like I was like, oh, but I was just like, what a good person. And I remember Tyler even saying to him, man, like someday you're going to find somebody who would never do that to you.
You.
And I mean, the foreshadowing, who would have ever thought? But
and that's coming a lot from Tyler, because me and Tyler, like,
they would kind of get in.
Yeah, we would get in Facebook arguments, like with politics
because he was religious, and then like politics and stuff, and so they would kind of go back and forth, but it wasn't really anything crazy. Yeah. But I remember that we would be there.
If that person or any of these people that we talk about, and we don't name them, like that person, I just want them to know that I forgive them.
Yeah.
You know, that's over with. I have no ill feelings towards them. And so I don't want anybody to get the wrong impression.
Yeah.
But,
like they're a part of your story, but they have theirs too. And
it's more her that don't like to talk about these things, but me, I'm just like, I mean, this is my story.
Yeah.
This is who I am. Yeah. I am who I am today because of what I've gone through.
So I guess early 20s, we've already brought in Oliver's dad into the scene. And so y'all were together for a very long time too.
Yeah. So I met my son's dad when I was 16 and he was like 20. And like I started dating him a little bit before I turned 18. So he was a big part of my life for a long time.
Yeah.
And right before I met him, especially in my high school years, was when I was really just kind of headed down a path of destruction. And so really just, again, searching for acceptance, searching to fit in, such a chameleon of like who I was around, which is so funny because people like Brandon who went to high school with me were like, oh, you were so confident in high school. I'm like, that is so interesting that is what I gave off because really I was so desperately insecure that I just wanted to be accepted. I was that person that had so many friends, but it's because I couldn't stand the thought of anyone not liking me. And so I was a people pleaser at my own cost, you know? And so, I mean, I really just didn't have a backbone to say no to things that were bad for me. And so that's one thing that I am super thankful for Oliver's dad for is like, I started dating him at a young age and oh my gosh, I remember my friends and like my family were like, no, like, what are you doing dating this high school or this college guy when you're in high school? And so while there was some negativity that definitely came along with it, at the same time, when I look at where I was before I started that relationship, there was so much that it saved me from at the same time. And so I started dating him when I was like 17. We dated until we got engaged when I was 21. We never broke up. I mean, none of that. And we moved in together when I was 19, and then we got married when I was 22. And so in retrospect, knowing what I know now, our relationship was not a healthy relationship, but at the time, I had never been loved for who I was. And so he was a support system for me for sure. And then we got married, and I think reality hit us in the face that neither one of us really knew what marriage was supposed to be and what it meant. I mean, we did not have God as a foundation of our marriage at all. That was something that he and I never even talked about. And I think that we were both just doing the next step. Like we'd been together at that point for 5 years, and it was like, okay, now we've lived together. Now we both have our big boy and big girl job. Like, so now we get married. Then I'm coming from the perspective of seeing my parents who have been married for so long and go through hard things, and they just stuck together through it all. And same thing with his parents. He grew up with parents who had a really good marriage and a really healthy marriage. And so we went through a lot of hard things, but in my mind, there was no giving up. And it's so crazy because I still remember, because I listened to Abby's podcast, which was awesome and just made me cry. And I remember when you told me about what happened with Abby and what she had gone through, and thinking like, wow, like that is so crazy. I can't imagine.
I remember this conversation so vividly.
I remember it like it was yesterday. So crazy.
Yesterday.
So you came to see me,
and then you told me, and then I was like, yeah.
And do you remember what I said?
I couldn't imagine. Like, I think I would die if that literally happened to me.
If that happened to me, I would just die.
Yes.
And so, I mean, and it was not much long after that.
So, I think probably like within the month or too, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I did call Tyler when I told him I was doing this podcast because a big part of my story and what is a huge part of my testimony is some of the darkest times in his life. So I wanted to be respectful of like, is it okay if I talk about this? Yeah. And he was like, you just got to be honest. Like, you know, it is what it is. It's part of our life, and it's so far behind us now that, you know,
very mature.
He's like, I don't want it to be a thing, but at the same time, it's your story, and it impacted you. And so one thing that he pointed out though was, yes, there was an affair and there was infidelity, and that's what ultimately led to our divorce. But what he said was, the hurt that you were going through started happening long before that. And so that's what I realize now, is that the relationship was not healthy because he was going through his own mental crisis and just a lot of changes in his life, and was not ready for marriage, was not ready to be a dad. And he can admit that now. So many things came at him so quickly, and that manifested itself in him not being able to be there for me. And so he started to lean on some bad habits, drinking, just playing video games all the time, to the point where he couldn't motivate himself to do the things that he needed to do in his life. And so it led to us fighting all the time. It led to some just really negative talk from him to me that really changed the way that I saw myself. And that was really difficult, because this person who at one time lifted me up and made me feel like nothing I had done in the past mattered was the person who was hurting me and making me feel negative about myself. And I definitely forgive him for that. But it was hard, you know? And so at the end of the day, we were going through so much. And I remember, like, towards the end of our relationship, like, I would want to go to church, or I'd want to go to therapy. And I wasn't even necessarily wanting to go to church. I don't know. I just wanted to do something that would save it. And I knew it was bad when I started to, like, just kind of pretend like everything was fine. Always speak highly about him, even if we were going through something terrible.
Which is very common.
Yeah.
A lot of people do that, and they don't want to, you know, especially in married couples, they don't want to tell people, like, oh, he's this way or she's this way. It's like, oh, everything's perfect.
Yeah.
And I think what was hard for me is that I knew that he wasn't a bad person, but there was no way that I could save him from whatever mental turmoil he was going through. And so finally, it led to an affair on his part. And that was very heartbreaking. But it's like what Abby said when she said she never imagined that she would ever be in that position and do that. Oh, I know he didn't either.
Yeah.
And I didn't either.
Yeah.
I never thought. You know, I knew we were going through hard times, but I never thought that would be the thing. But what was interesting when you talk about what was that, like, defining moment, oh my goodness. Like, it was that for me, because in retrospect, I do feel like towards the end of that relationship, God was chasing after me. And that's why I was like, maybe if we just go to church, or maybe, you know. But I remember him telling me that. And I always say this because this is how I felt. It's like the room got quiet. I never expected that to come out of his mouth. And he told me what he had done. And he came and he told me immediately. And I just remember feeling held. And, like, I felt God being like, just be still. And I had never felt the presence of God. And that's why it was so powerful for me growing up and not going to church. Yeah. And not having any sort of relationship with God, and not even knowing that the relationship aspect was a thing. Like, I knew, like, oh yeah, there's probably a God that, like, made all of us, and, like, yeah. But I did not know what it meant to have someone who wouldn't change anything about you and loves you no matter what. And in that moment, it was like, I realized even this relationship was me trying to fill a void, because this was like a puzzle that was not going to fit. And we were trying for so long, and I can't save this person, and I can't save myself. And I just need to release all of this and just let it go. But I also remember feeling very forgiving and feeling like, you know, it's okay because this, you know, he's going to be okay. I'm going to be okay. He's not a bad person. I'm not a bad person. I forgive him. Mm-hmm. And I think it took him a lot longer to forgive himself than it did me. And I wish I could say that, like, I walked in that from the beginning. But, of course, like, I'm human, so there was anger. There was...
just a bunch of different emotions.
Yeah. And, I mean, but I also remember, and it's so weird to say this, I never thought I would feel this way. I felt relief.
Oh, wow.
I felt like I was free, which was so crazy because never in my mind did I think that I wanted to be free. But I felt like I had been trying so hard to, like, save this and fix this and, like, feeling like, okay.
Finally, yeah. Just a breath of fresh air almost.
Know? And then that's when I really started to feel God. Yeah. Just in my life, so strong. And so, like I said, I wish that I could say I just was like, I forgive you. And, you know, and I will say, I didn't yell. I didn't scream. I didn't.
Just a woman that's just.
Just let it go. I was almost maybe in shock. And I knew within a couple days that I needed to start to pray and I needed to lean on God. And so I started to do that. And I remember telling the girls that I was close friends with at the time. And it was so weird because growing up, no one ever even really, I mean, and maybe they didn't, I just didn't notice. Because, you know, when you're in your darkest times, that's when the light of God is so bright. People started, like, sending me Bible verses because they knew what I was going through and telling me they were praying for me.
Yeah, and some of your clients would,
my gosh.
Something's going on, you know.
The biggest thing, because I remember being like, no, that's not what it was. That was probably just me being in shock. That wasn't God's voice. Like, what was that? Like, I've never even thought about that. Yeah. And I remember this one day, Sid and I were doing this girl's hair, and she was so precious, and I used to always be like, oh, Lord, like, let's make sure we turn on clean music, like, you know, because she was very openly spiritual and religious, and that day she came, and I remember saying to Sydney, like, don't tell her what's going on, because I was afraid she was going to be like, forgive him and stay with him, and I knew that wasn't what I needed to do. And I just was like, she's going to be judgmental that I'm, like, getting a divorce. And I remember she started, you doing okay? And I'm like, yeah. I'm like, turn the music up. I don't want to talk about this right now. And she's like, okay. And then she kind of kept going back to it. And then Sid went to go fold towels, and I'm alone in the room with her. And she goes, hey, I really feel like I need to pray for you. I feel like the Lord is laying on my heart for me to pray for you. And I was like, okay. And so I remember she held my hand and she held Sydney's hand. And that was the first time that anyone had ever placed hands on me and prayed over me. And when I tell you that the Lord spoke through her, like, I mean, it was just so genuine and so sincere. And she was praying for the situation I was in. She was praying for my future husband. She was praying for my life and praying for me to, like, get rid of any shame that I had and all of this. And it was just completely the opposite reaction of what I would have expected. And it was a reaction that I feel like Jesus would have given me. And I remember even Sydney was crying, like, it was so emotional. And that was the day that I was like, okay, like, whatever this is, like, I need to follow this. Yeah. And there was another friend that I don't know if she knows how impactful she was, my friend Hannah Elliott. She would send me Bible verses all the time. And
there was a client that was in your chair and invited you to church, too, in that time period, right?
Yes,
and that's where you went.
The wife of the pastor at Harvest.
Oh, wow.
And she invited me to church. I never even knew she was a pastor's wife.
Wow.
And it was so weird. Like, I mean, I'm telling you, God was pulling me in every direction.
Just trying to get you in the house of the Lord somehow. Yeah.
So then I'm sitting here and I'm toying with this. And like I said, I'm fighting it still. So I'm still angry about what I'm going through, but then I'm peaceful. And then I'm hearing God, but then I'm like, no. That's, you know. And all of a sudden, I'm getting flooded with all these memories of things that I felt ashamed of that I had done in the past. Or, you know, maybe I'll start going to church, but maybe I just need to, like, I need to make sure I don't drink anymore. Or, like, I need to make sure my divorce is final. Like, I'm just thinking of all these things. I need to clean up my life before I can really let God in, because he doesn't want me how I am right now. Like, I need to do better. And I remember several months after Tyler and I had split, he asked if Oliver could come and spend the night with him. And so I'm like, okay. And it's Thanksgiving time. And I was still nursing him. I mean, he was still a baby. And so I was so scared. The first day I moped. The next day I was like, okay, it's Black Friday. I needed, like, get out there, this is the first time I've been without my baby.
This is where Wally World came to save.
So I went to Walmart and I'm Black Friday shopping. And then I see the cutest little girl in the buggy. This little 2-year-old looking just like Boo from Monsters, Inc. And then her dad.
That's the only way I knew how to do her hair at the time.
Her dad, whatever, he was there too. No, he's walking and he's pushing her in the buggy. We're in the curtain aisle. And I am that person that you see from high school that you're like, oh God, I gotta go. Like, she's gonna talk to me.
Talk nonstop.
Yeah, she's just gonna come and talk to me because I'll be like, oh my gosh, how have you been? I mean, I just have always been that way. Like, I'm just a talker. So I see Brandon and I'm like, Brandon Carlson. And he's going like, and I'm like, and then he turns around. And this is so lame, but I remember him turning around and feeling peace come over me. And he's like, how are you? And I'm just talking to talk, baby. I'm bored. I don't have my baby.
And this is unusual because people don't know Brandon Carlson.
Yeah,
I
knew.
Like in high school, like she was the thing now. Every guy wanted to be with her. And it was like, oh, that would never happen, Brandon. Never. No, she don't want to be with you.
Well, to be fair, that's not why I was saying hey. I would have said hey
regardless,
to anybody. I was really saying hey to Jay.
Yes.
And so I go over and start talking to him when we're chatting, and we just
but before this, in October I had reached out to her about doing Jade, my daughter's hair and makeup because what did she want
for Halloween? She wanted to be Stacy from
Boss Baby.
Boss Baby, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So he had reached out to me, and like I said, over the years, I remember the situation with his high school sweetheart, and then him getting cancer. Finding out he was having a baby, I would always either reach out to him, hey, congratulations, I'm so happy for you, or hey, I'm really sorry to hear that, like you're on my mind, even though we never were friends in high school. Like it just was always, when I got engaged, I'm so happy for you guys, all this stuff. And so he had reached out to me Halloween, asked me to do her hair, and honestly, I didn't even respond to him. I was going through it. Halloween.
She ghosted me. Like it was.
I was like, I just got too much going on. I gotta take my baby trick or treating. Like whatever. So I really was going up to him to say, hey, sorry I didn't get back to you about Halloween. Like I've just had so much going on. We chatted for a minute about just like really nothing. And then at the end of the conversation, he goes, oh, by the way, does your husband still do photography? Because my mom wants to get like big family photos taken. And I was like, well, that person does still do photography. And I was like, but, I'm actually going through a divorce right now. And, told him what happened. And he was like, you're kidding me. He was like, I'm going through the same thing. I know what that's like. And I was like, oh, yeah, I know you went through that in the past. And he was like, yeah, I'm going through it again. I was like, oh, no.
But then you're like, oh, this is.
Yeah. No, I wasn't. I was like, poor guy. Bless his sweet heart. He just can't catch a break. And then he says, like, well, I'm so sorry you're going through that. I know how that feels. And then he tells me, well, I got to ask, are you going to therapy? I was like, no. He was like, well, let me give you this card. And he gives me a therapist card. And he's like, the first time I went through this, I tried to handle it on my own. I didn't think I needed any help. And I brought a lot of that pain into my next relationship. And now I'm going to therapy and I'm realizing that it's okay for me to have help through this, and I don't want to carry that into the rest of my life. So I really recommend you like lean in on someone. And I'm like, okay. And that's when I was like, he looks a little different than he did. And I was like, this man that has pulled me over in the past, because that's the thing, pulled me over before, and now he's telling me to go to therapy. Like that's kind of different. No, yeah, he had pulled me over when I was pregnant with Oliver. And I remember thinking, I'm surely getting a ticket.
She was pointing out a Chick-fil-A on Watson.
Oh, the invisible line is just so crazy.
It's crazy. And we never had hung out.
Yeah.
Like, it's so weird. And he pulled me over, and I'm like, great, I'm going to get a ticket. Then I see him, and I was like, it's Brandon Carlson. I'm good. Like, he's so nice. He's not going to give me a ticket. And then he said, all right, you be careful, especially since you got that baby on the way. Aww. And now I'm like to say, little did he know he would be raising that baby.
Yes.
But yeah, so he tells me that, and then he ends up messaging me later that day and says, hey, I'm really sorry that heavy conversation got brought up in a public place. Definitely consider what I said about therapy, but also you should really come to church with me and Jade. He's like, they have a great kids program. Like Ollie and Jade can go there and we could go to church. And I was like, okay, that's weird. This is another person inviting me to go to church. Mind you, it was the same church that I had already been invited to.
Oh,
that
wow.
I had already told someone I was going to go. So I'm like, well, now I have to go. And I remember I screenshot it and sent it to my friends and said, do y'all think he's flirting with me? Because I'm not interested. And they were like, I think he's just inviting you to church.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, okay.
Going back, y'all run into each other at Walmart and we're talking and stuff. So, and then she mentioned that you were going through it again. So maybe go a little bit into that relationship, maybe.
Okay. Yeah. So after that first marriage, that really sucked because I was that guy in high school. It's like, oh, this is my sweetheart. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm going to marry her and forever and all that stuff. And then it just like, it was like not the case. Mm-hmm. And so became a cop in Warner Robins and started doing that. She actually reached back out not long while I was still on the road training. And she was like, oh, I made a mistake. And then to my first wife, mm-hmm. I made a mistake and I want to get back with you. And I was like, okay, because in my mind at the time, I had a biblical view about marriage. And so I was like, she's still my wife. Like, I'm still tied to her. And this other person took her from me. Mm-hmm. And I was like, okay, yeah, let's do it. So we started hanging out and everything, started finding out some things that she was telling me about this guy and who he was. And I didn't really know him. I knew his family. And so I started talking to him, and I remember we went to McDonald's on Russell and had like a conversation for like 3 hours, and came to find out that she was telling me the same things about him that she told him about me whenever she was, they were doing their thing and everything. And so I look back now, I'm like, Brandon, you were such an idiot.
But young, go on.
Young,
like,
I know, but I was still an idiot.
Young and loyal.
Yeah.
Loyal.
And, that's your wife, and you had a biblical standpoint. So you're like, you just really want that to work. You truly do.
But when I tell you, I was an idiot. Because she was like, okay, well, because we had confronted her about it. It was like, look.
He talked to me on the phone right before he went to McDonald's with this guy.
Yeah.
And I told you he was talking to me through it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, me and Tyler are like, you be careful. Don't do anything crazy. Yeah. Like, don't get your dog on the line. He calls us. He's like, yeah.
Yeah, but
this is not what I thought it was.
So we confronted her and was like, look, I think you're lying. Like, you're telling him the same things that you told me about him, and so she was like, all right, well, look, here's what I'll do. And she was married to him at this time. She was like, give me a week, and I'll choose between y'all. And we're both like, okay.
Oh.
And I was like, this is what I'm saying. Like, I was an idiot. And so we give her a week, and he goes and meets with her first, and then he leaves, and then I go and meet with her. And
this is like a real life bachelor.
And she like straight up was like, oh, look, I just have happier moments with him, so I just want to be with him. And so I told her straight up, I was like, look, this is the second time. I was like, second opportunity I gave you. I'm done. Mm-hmm. I'm done with it. And so from there, I just, I kind of put it behind me. It took a little bit to get over it, but I struggled with a lot. I struggled with trust because, just that person and just tearing me down. And I didn't really trust people anymore. Something else happened that destroyed my trust even more.
You might as well just do a short synopsis. He got catfish.
Brandon, you have lived many
Bless
lives.
His sweetheart. He talked to somebody online for 6 months, and they completely were not.
You brought it up. I wasn't going to say anything.
Oh my gosh.
She does not like that story.
How did you find out?
It's not that I don't like it. I just am like,
listen,
Carlson.
I could write a book about this.
Sometimes.
Like it was, and I had never watched Catfish, the show.
He's just a loving soul.
I love people.
I love love. Well, this person reached out to me on Instagram. Okay, and I was in a vulnerable place, and I was like, okay, yeah. So we started talking and everything, and everyone at work, dispatchers, my buddies on the road, all of them like, Brandon, she ain't real. And I'm like, no, she is real, I promise. Looking back now, I'm like, oh yeah, it was definitely fake. But it would be like we would talk, and she wouldn't say anything for 2 weeks, and then she'd come back and be like, oh, sorry, I got diagnosed with cancer. And I'm like, okay, yeah, that's possible, whatever. And then she would
just get worse.
Yeah, and then she would talk, and then 2 weeks. And I wouldn't hear anything. She'd be like, oh, sorry, I got R-word by my brother. Now I'm pregnant with twins.
Oh, my gosh.
And I'm just like, well, I'll raise the twins, whatever. And so it was just.
These are the details.
I'm telling you. Yeah, it's embarrassing. It's embarrassing, but.
Hey, glory to God. You know, you've came a long way since then.
Feel free to cut that.
Yeah, and so.
I'm leaving it. I'm sorry.
And so everyone was like, Brandon, this person's not real. And I remember I got off of work one night and I was like, she is real. I'm going to meet her. So I left, and my buddy was getting married in North Georgia. And I was like, okay, well, I'm going to be in this wedding. Do you want to meet me there? Because she was like, oh, yeah, I've got an aunt that lives in South Carolina. I was like, cool. Go down there and meet me there. So I get up there. I never hear anything, right? She doesn't show up the next day. And I'm like messing her. I'm like, hey, you didn't show up. What's up? And I laugh now.
She said she got her phone
stolen. Yeah, she was like, she got her phone stolen at some gas station in South Carolina. I was like, no worries. I'll drive up there. So I drive 2 hours to South Carolina, and I sit in this gas station parking lot for 8 hours waiting for her. I'm telling you, like, I wanted somebody to love me so bad.
Oh.
And she never shows up. So I'm like, screw it. And I drive out. I go home. And I call my buddy, Jacob Whitehead, and I'm like talking to him. And I know it just sounds so stupid, but and I come home, and then she messages me and then gives me this story. And I was like, okay, it's plausible.
No.
Yeah. And so we keep talking and everything. Everybody's telling me she's fake. And she was like, all right, look, because I confronted her. I'm like, look, you're not real. She's like, I am real and everything. Come to Ohio. That's where she lived. And she told me like her parents' name. She told me the car she drives, her best friend's name, all this stuff, her address. And I was like, okay, my cousin, his best friend, lived in Columbus, Ohio. And so I was like, hey, you come with me. You spend time with him. I'll go spend time with her. He's like, all right. And he's like the whole time, like, she's not real.
Yeah.
She's not real. And so we drive 13 hours up there, and we get there, and this town that she says she lived in was like 300 people. If she lives here, people know. The gas
station knows.
People know her.
Yeah.
And so I go into a gas station, and I show them a picture. I'm like, does this person live here? And they're like, I've seen her, but I don't know her name. And I'm like, so me and my cousin looked at him, like, okay, well.
He's like, there's a chance.
She's real.
I was like, maybe she's real. Here's one of the kickers. Her name was Natalie Smith, and her best friend was Brittany Smith. So it was like, it just all adds up. And I wasn't going to bring this up.
He's like, this is
I
why.
wasn't going to tell this story.
This is why.
I even told her before. I was like, I won't bring it up. That's why I was like, something happened that ruined my trust even more. But anyway, we're here now.
I mean, dive right in.
Yeah. And so we're like, okay, maybe. So we're like, well, let's go to this house. So we go to the house, and it says middle of cornfields, nothing, long driveway. So we go down the driveway, and there's this like probably 50s, 60s couple walking down the driveway. And we stopped about halfway, and I rolled down the window. I said, hey, how you doing? She was like, hey, how y'all doing? And I was like, hey, my name's Brandon, and I'm here to meet someone named Natalie Smith. And she was like, I don't know who that is. And I was like, well, she said she lives here. And she was like, no one named Natalie lives here. And I said, well, what's your name? She told me her name, and I was like,
that's the parents?
I was like, that's the name that she told me her mom. Well, and she was like, really? I said, what's your husband's name? She told me. I was like, that's the name she gave me for her dad. And I was like, at this location. She was like, no one lives here by the name of Natalie. And I showed her a picture, and she was like, nope, never seen her. And I was like, well, just so you know, someone online is saying that she lives here and that you are her mom and he's her dad. Uh-huh. And she was like, well, that's weird. Turns around and walks off. And me and my cousin looked at it and we're like, I would have a different reaction to that.
Yeah.
And so we were like, all right, this is.
Was it the mom?
Well, hang on. And so we're like, okay, this is weird. And so we turn around, and he was like, dude, I told you what. And I was like, well, let's go, because she told me the address, she told me the town that her best friend lived in, and that she drove a purple PT Cruiser. And we were like, okay, that's 30 minutes. So we drove there. We're riding around this town looking for a purple PT Cruiser, because I tell my cousin, I'm like, look, I doubt there's more than one of these PT Cruisers. Mm-hmm. And he's like, all right. So we ride around, and we find it parked on the side of a road.
Oh, my gosh.
In front of a house.
Wow.
So we pull up. I go up, and there's a lady sitting on the front porch. And she was like, can I help you? And I said, I'm looking for Brittany Smith. And she was like, hang on. So she goes inside, and I look, and I was like, well, we got something here.
Got a chance.
And so she comes out. She's like,
All right, guys. Well, I think we came to a pretty good stopping point for this week. We actually just decided that we're going to move this into a 2-part series because this story is just too good and I don't want to cut this much. So make sure that you tune in next week, Wednesday at 4 p.m. Stay tuned, stay blessed, and we'll see you guys later. Bye.